this is where I try to have like music
The intro.
and the intro. You got to have the microphone up so they.
No, 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 no. And here's Welch.
Here we are. Hey, so you can wave to the camera there because we are, I guess, live, but not. We're not. We're live, but when people see this, we won't be live.
Oh,
So
because we'll be dead. Awesome.
no, because it's pre-recorded basically. So there you go. Hey, so my name is Brandon Welch, and I'm with
Kasy Zook.
Kasy Zook, and so um, this is the first go round, the beta version of some kind of video audio podcast. So here
We're
we
both
go.
beta.
We're both beta.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
No alphas here.
No alphas. I'm definitely not an alpha. We can get into that in a second if you want to. But I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time, and hopefully into the future, or I might not play this at the very beginning. This might be something that happens later because I've got to work out all the kinks and details and everything like that. But I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this might look cool. Because we got headphones and a microphone
Yeah.
and a camera and an awesome bicycle that we'll talk about. But I really don't know what I'm doing. So this is for the people. So Kasy, the reason that we're doing this also though is because you and I have worked together in the past, and we've had some fun, amazing conversations about all things. So now we're just going to have another conversation about all things.
Sweet.
So I don't really have anything planned per se. I've got a few questions that I want to ask you and see where everything takes us.
Okay.
So, and then I got a few surprises for you. So.
Is that what those boxes are for?
No, those are just Amazon
bummer.
orders and packages. So.
Is it a Surly Wednesday?
It is not a Surly Wednesday. Tell me about your fascination with Surly, though.
Oh, Surleys are pretty cool. I like the fact that you can make them your own. I think that's what part of what bikes are all about, is just being able to customize them to your own personality.
What
And steel.
And steel. Steel is real. How many Surleys have you owned?
I've owned two. No, yeah, two. But my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, when I was heavy into stuff back in Philadelphia, she had three, and my daughter had one as well. My daughter still has hers. She has a cross-check that I bought her when she was 14. She's 33 now.
When did you start working on bikes?
Like 2005. Yeah, it was. I had just sailed down to California on a sailboat that I lived on, and I had just been in the boating industry doing boat repair, and I was tired of all that. But the bikes were kind of like my second curiosity, and since I wasn't gonna be able to travel by boat anymore, I started like just doing a bunch of research um, and yeah, and then there was the local bike shop. Town was really tiny, like I think half the houses were second homes, so it was just locals were the only ones that were around all the time, and there was a little shop, and I just started hanging out there, and then pretty soon I was behind the counter, just like tinkering on stuff and helping organize, and yeah, and then I was wrenching, and I did that for like 6 months, and then did a tour in New Zealand for like 3 months.
Okay, so a lot there. So like worked on boats, and you got to a point where you couldn't travel by boat. So why was that, or how was that?
Um, it was it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be, and
okay.
the
Did you get seasick a lot? Is that what it was?
I did get seasick a lot,
Okay.
yeah. But after a few days, like we sailed down, my brother and I, we sailed down. We went offshore, like 120 miles offshore, and sailed from Washington State down to California, and it took us about 10 days. So we were like 10 days where we couldn't see land. And the first few days we were seasick.
Is that kind of nerve-wracking, not being able to see land?
Yeah, it was interesting. There were times where it was the coolest thing in the world, especially at night, because some nights there would be no moon, and all you'd see is the stars, and way more stars than people are used to in cities. And with no moon, the water would be as black as the sky.
Oh
So,
wow.
but all the stars would reflect in the water. So it was almost like you were floating in space, in real space. And then there was the phosphorescence of the boat moving through the water, and it would go like 100 yards behind the boat, and just trail along the side of the boat, and you could just like lay there and just look around, and it reminds me of the whatever it was in the boat shoe boat, that story tale of when you're a kid, them sailing the seas of space or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Reminded me of that. Where you just like it just blew my mind some nights. Yeah, and then other times it was just like, man, we are just like, even if we wanted to go to shore, it would take us like 3 days.
Wow. Okay. So I can see where that can be like the best of both worlds. You have like glorious views and amazing, cool, weird landscapes that aren't really landscapes, seascapes.
Yeah,
Um, but then you're like, "W- what happens if I can't touch land again, right?
yeah,
So, um, so you found your love and passion with bicycles then.
yeah.
So, was there ever like a mentor who helped guide you through that, or are you seem to always have been kind of almost self-taught? You've been figuring things out.
Um, yeah, I was really lucky because I was into bikes a little bit, but never to where like I had a bunch because I was into air-cooled Volkswagens at the same time, and so I was putting a lot more money and effort into that, and but had bikes on the side. But in Olympia, Washington, the local he was a frame builder, Bill Davidson, but he was also the manager of the local bike shop. And every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, he would have a class, and he would teach everything from frame alignment to wheel truing to derailleur adjustment. Um, and yeah, I went like every Wednesday night for like a year and a half, and like his wife started doing a scrapbooking at the same time, and like my daughter would come with me, and she'd go scrapbook for an hour and a half or whatever, and I would go learn this stuff from Bill, and it just gave me a good foundation. I was already mechanically inclined, but it gave me a good foundation for um, what was, rather than trying to research it and get little bits and bobs, he just gave this awesome overview. Um, so I just had a much better understanding about it when I was working on them.
That's really awesome. I think for me, and what I've done over the years through my training is there's always been like a really good mentor, and all of a sudden I'm like robbing all of their learns and just a lot of observation
Yeah.
and just like watching what they do and stuff like that. So in terms of observation, you've observed many a thing around the world because you're quite the world traveler. So in terms of what you do now, this bike behind us is seeing a lot of things.
That's not the
Uh,
bike I went to my latest trips. That bike has seen a lot of miles, but my ECR is the one I usually use most of the time now.
yeah. So where's your bike or bikes taking you the furthest? Where's from like this point around the world? Have you Is there like a distant land that you've gone and like, wow, this is the furthest place I've ever been from home or the States or Americas?
Yeah, this Norway is like the farthest north I've gone
Okay,
on a bike, and then was in East Germany slash border of Poland and Czechoslovakia this past trip, and that was the farthest east that I've gone.
gotcha. Do you have like a bucket list of things in terms of where you want to go on your bicycle?
Just the
Or would that be a bicycle basket list? I don't. I'm not sure if.
I think we should normalize that.
Okay, basket list. All right,
Yeah,
because
a walled basket list,
uh, a rear rack basket list,
pannier list.
pannier list, a pannier list, or is it panier?
I say panier just when I want to be funny.
Okay, or French.
Hmm.
Do you say do you say croissant or croissant?
Sometimes I say croissant,
Yeah.
but again, just to be funny.
Okay.
I'm American. I'm gonna mispronounce it. So.
Have you ever been in a country and they just like rolled their eyes at you because of how bad you're trying to speak their language or anything like that?
Generally not with strangers, but definitely with friends. Um, like when I was in Wales, my friend, he has a couple kids, and they make fun of me being American, and then I play it up too, and then they also had um, some workers for the workaway program where they exchange work for food and board, and one of the ladies was from Switzerland, and um, I'd have a lot of fun teasing her about her English pronunciation of
Yeah.
things, and she would make fun of me for my English pronunciations of French and sometimes German.
Well, this is a good chance to. I'm going to have you kind of turn to the side there and walk us through a couple of photos that you provided us with. So, um, so this is what our audience is seeing right now. Is this? It looks like a ice sled. Um, what are those? What are those called?
Bobsled run.
Bobsled run. Yeah. Is that what that is? Or
Yeah, totally. I don't know if it was the site of any Olympics or anything, but this was like a derelict bobsled run. And essentially, this was in East Germany on the Trans Germany backpacking route. And I was climbing this hill because I was doing it the opposite way that the route set up for. And a lot of the trail was up ski slopes, so like crazy elevation, and just kind of straight up, and it was certainly brutal. And then at some point, I saw this off to the side, and I went over and explored it, and I just said, "What the hell? I'm just gonna start riding this up," and it was so cool riding up this bobsled run, and it just kept going, and you would come across little buildings. I guess they had timekeepers or whatever, and they were all like broken apart. And if it was later in the day, I just would have slept in one of those, but it was still pretty early. And then at I think the last 200 yards, it ended before the top of this mountain, and it was a ski hill, and it was it was really cool because I was coming across, and there was like a big like cafe and all this kind of stuff, and all these people in the parking lot, and they're just all like looking around, and I come out of the woods, and they're all looking at me, and I'm very aware they're looking at me. And there's like this little ledge up onto the parking lot, and I was kind of tired from climbing all morning, and then I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. And I roll up, and I get my front wheel over, and then a bunny hop up, and I totally cleaned it. And I was like, hell yeah. I was so excited, not only to accomplish what I accomplished that day, but then that little bit in front of everybody. It was just like, yeah.
yeah, there's many a time where I've tried to bunny hop or wheelie or do something fun trickery on a bike in a group of people to kind of show off, and I've waxed a few times, and
Yeah, I usually do that too.
yeah, it's a very humbling experience.
Hmm.
But all right, so let's go to this next photo here.
So this is Denmark. I think it's right near Fishguard, where the ferry comes from Gothenburg, Sweden. And I had just spent like maybe a week in Norway and Sweden in some pretty cold and rainy conditions, and I got across the ferry, and instantly it was 10 degrees warmer. And
Oh man.
Denmark has all these shelters, these hiking shelters. You can't stand up in them, and they're not open. They're open on the front that you can't see here, but they do have an overhang usually, fire pit, and they're usually grouped in pairs or threes, and they're free. They're put up by the government, and they have sometimes they have firewood and stuff. And this is the first one, and you can't see it, but there's a beach right there, and I had the whole place to myself the first night that I got there. I was just like roll up, beautiful day, 10 degrees warmer, no rain, no snow, and just like I have this beautiful place to myself. I got all my stuff out, dried it all out. The sun was shining. I took long walks, made some awesome dinner, and just like hung out in the shelter. It was awesome.
Um, I'm really jealous of that because, especially, I was going to ask you, is that a big old honking fire pit? So that must be like really awesome, especially when you're cold. Roll up on something like that, and is there just wood you got to go gather, or is it kind of already there provided?
A
Or
lot of times it was provided. Like I only did a fire I think twice,
hmm
and not at this location, because I'm just not good at starting fires. But um, there was one a couple of days beyond this one because the whole time I was there, I used my tent once, and that was like my last night because I'd run out of shelters by the time I got there. I stayed in shelters every night, but one night it was awesome. Yeah, they're just out in the middle of woods wherever, and you could look on the website, and it would show you where it was on in the country, and then you could click on it, and it'll show you a picture of it and where it was at, and what amenities. Because sometimes they have a restroom, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have water. Um,
So on your rig, do you carry like a shovel? Just I really gotta go poo. Gotta go number two, and
absolutely, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's good. It's very um, environmentally sound of you. Is that what it is, or is it what's the other word for that?
The correct way to do
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Yeah, because I've been plenty of places where people they don't
yeah.
even bother covering it up, and especially when you're um, out in the wilderness and you just see toilet paper everywhere. It's just like, come on, guys.
So I'd imagine on some of the things that's always a consideration of how far you're going to go, where you're going to go based on your needs, right? Food, water, shelter, going to the bathroom. Do you ever like plan a route and think like this is going to suck because I've got two of the things that I need, but not all three or four, you know, is or do you just like, okay, I got to muscle through this, or do you just like, screw it, I'm just gonna suffer overnight with your bike packing?
Um, the way I do it, um, it's very rarely that I'm near starvation. Because like rice and lentils, usually the minimum packaging is 500 grams, and so right there's a kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds of rice and lentils. So as long as I have water and fuel, I got food. Realistically. So other than I would say like when I did the
And
Western
it's,
Wood,
and not to interrupt you, but
sure,
it's great that you know that right off the top of your head, like how much things weigh, because that's another thing that really comes into play is when you're riding, your home and all your essentials are on the bike, and it can get heavy, and just any good hiker knows like they're always weighing their stuff, but it's kind of fun that you're like immediately calculated. You're probably always doing that when you're shopping for yourself, I would imagine. Like,
not
oh,
totally because my stuff is really heavy.
uh-huh,
I just kind of know it just because I'm basing it off on ratios of what to what
yeah,
for kind of like longevity rather than weight.
okay,
Because you know, I'm also thrifty, so if there's not single potatoes, but there's a bag of potatoes, and it's still 2 kilograms or whatever, I'm still buying it. Even though it's 4 pounds, I'm still buying that. I'm
yeah,
gonna carry it around for a week, or whatever it is. I'm not, I'll try to buy sometimes the smaller amount, but if it's not available, I don't care because my bike already weighs 100 pounds.
wow.
And grocery shopping's great, but I also don't love to do it all the time. So if
Do
I
you
could,
ever do you ever go to a place and try to feast off the wildlife, like go fishing or I don't know, catch a catch a little rabbit and or
no,
not?
I'm not that outdoorsy.
Okay. Well, I mean, there could be some times when, because I don't know the extent of where you try to plan all of your bike packing. If you're like, oh, I'm really remote and I'm desperate times call for desperate measures, or if you're like, yeah, I try to play it safe. With 20 kilometers from anywhere.
I don't necessarily try to play it safe, but essentially, since I'm on a bike and it's different than being a hiker because I can cover, if I can ride for 18 hours if I need to,
Oh
you know,
wow, wow,
just about anybody can.
yeah,
It's not going to be fast or whatever, but you can ride. So if you haven't had food for 3 days, you can ride to get that food. But realistically, you know, the most remote I've ever been was the Western Wilderness route, and I think it was 3 days
hmm
between stores, little tiny stores, and yeah. So the rest it's relative. Like I was talking with my daughter this morning where I do like a kind of a whatever that movie thing, like the disbelief thing, where I kind of put my place in itself in a place where I feel more remote than I actually am,
uh huh,
because I'm always going through towns. Even though I might
Oh,
feel like I'm in
gotcha.
the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and I live like I'm in the middle of nowhere. I live like the books that I read back in 70s and 80s, where it's like, don't go into the woods unless you bring everything that you
You
need
need.
in case the storm comes or whatever. So I'm always doing that. So I'm in my head, I'm way more remote than in reality, because usually you go through a town like every day. There's never really going to be an issue.
Well, let's take a snapshot of another picture here, and this looks remote, so that's why I pulled up this picture right here. Where's this at?
Yeah, again, like it's not remote, but it was this like a I don't know if it's a state forest or some sort of state governed place. I think it was south of Edinburgh, and I rolled into it. You know, it was like I was going through the suburb, and then all of a sudden I'm in this wilderness, and was riding down all these roads, and I could see that there was the ocean just beyond on the map, and I was like, I bet you this is going to be awesome down by the water. And since it's Scotland, they have right to roam. You can essentially camp anywhere for up to 2 nights, um, as long as it's not somebody's like garden or plowed field or whatnot. And so I knew I could camp anywhere, and I just rode. And it was still early in the day, but it was just such a gorgeous day, and this area was just so beautiful. And I got my tent out. I spent probably like 20 or 30 minutes finding the perfect spot. Got my tent out, got all my stuff out, got my chair out, was reading, had a great dinner, read some more, watched the sunset. It was just, it was just amazing. It just felt, it's like bike packing for me, you know, times like this, in the non-riding part, the camping part, which like is half of it for me. Stuff like this is like the ideal.
Yeah. It looks like you're using some of the trees to dry out clothes.
Yeah, essentially, sometimes I think about like medieval warriors, they're always trying to clean their chainmail, like oiling and keeping it dry and stuff like that. So like things get to where they're a little bit musty inside. So I'm always, whenever I have an opportunity, I bring everything out and try to dry it completely. So like my sleeping bag will start to smell like feet. So I'll like turn it inside out and stick it in the sun or whatever. Whenever I have an opportunity, that way it's just I'm just doing my best to make my equipment be as fresh as long as it can and last as long as it can.
Um, with with the camping, have you ever come across like some kind of wildebeest trying to get at you, or has that been pretty few and far between where you've stayed, if anything?
I had a chicken in Wales that wanted my cheese. In
That's
Germany,
funny.
some unknown beast gnawed a hole in the side of my panniers. I saw a couple grizzlies when I was in like Montana, but they were a couple hundred yards away,
Yeah.
and I just kind of just let them do their thing, and I did my thing, and
Well,
nothing happened.
how about any humans? Any humans ever come in and try to snatch something from you?
Um,
Those are probably the worst predators out there.
I had stuff stolen in a hostel in Spain this last trip, and when I did the Western Wilderness route, I was in this one desert, and I was out where they had all these kind of gullies, and everybody, the detritus from people shooting bottles and stuff out there, and it was really uneven ground, and I eventually found a place, and I was walking around, and a pickup drove by me, and then um, like a little while later, that same pickup drove back down, but I was like low enough that they couldn't necessarily see me when they drove in. And then a few hours after that, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, they drove through again,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard them say, "I don't see anything, boss." And then they drove off again, and I didn't wait for them to drive back. I got my tent down, and I packed everything and just started riding. And then like half a mile away, some other pickup truck was driving by on another road, and they like totally, I think the person was drunk because they run over like a little sign that was at the fork in the road where I was coming up to meet this guy. And it was just like, that was like a situation where I could, if they were I don't know if they wanted to like meet me because it's like, hey, what are you doing out here, or it's like, we're going to take advantage of the fact that you're out here by yourself. and I didn't want to wait to find out. So
Is that a consideration when you're kind of designing a route of where you want to go? Like, ooh, I'm going to avoid this place because I heard it's pretty sketch. Or is it like, I just got to go. This is the best, most direct route?
yeah, I don't usually plan on stuff like that. I think I'd imagine cities are the most sketchier parts, but in the same time, they're not that sketchy. Um, yeah, just because I really don't know how far I'm going to make it each day or what the terrain, because I don't usually look at the terrain profiles or whatever, and I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't plan where I'm going to be more than a day or two out. So to even try to avoid certain situations, I might look at a place and say, there's a city, I don't want to stay at a hostel, I want to camp, and I might just plan to try to make it to a place where there's woods or a campground.
Or something like this?
Yes, this is also Scotland. This is a bothy. So Scotland has an association, the Bothy Association, and they maintain these old stone structures. They could be shepherd's huts or old barns, and they don't have any electricity. They're usually in the middle of nowhere. Um, a lot of the ones I've gone to don't have toilets, but they have like a shovel for you. Usually the running water is a creek that's next door.
Oh,
No,
that's awesome.
and yeah, no electricity. And there's usually platforms, wooden platforms for a bed and a place to maybe cook, a platform to cook. Um, but yeah, it's just really kind of a special thing because when it gets dark, you light a little tea candle, and sometimes there's enough left over that I could borrow them. And that one was really cool because it's only like maybe 10 miles from Loch Ness, Fort Augustus, but it's up kind of a pretty, it's Jack Pass or something like that. I'm sure I'm obliterating the name, but
Did you see Nessie?
I did not. But it's not the first time I've been to Loch Ness. I'm a veteran, but it was awesome because yeah, the day before I was on this other route. Through coming down south through Scotland, and it was a lot more difficult than the route that I had going up. It was you were just climbing out of one valley and going into the next valley, and climbing out of a valley and going to the next. And the day before, it had rained the entire day, and I was just like, slowly climbing these valleys and going down, sweating like crazy, and also just getting poured on to where it was just like it was ridiculous. It was funny. It was just so much sharp climbing and rain, and then I had camped that night, and I did check the weather, and it said it was going to be sunny the next day. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to go, because I've been to this bothy before, and I was like, I'm going to go to that bothy. I'm going to take a bath in that stream. I'm going to wash all my clothes. I'm going to put everything out to dry. I'm going to have an awesome dinner. I'm going to read. It's going to be glorious. And I showed up, and it's exactly how it was. But I think over the course of the night, four other bikepackers showed up, and we all ended up hanging out and sleeping inside the bothy, and having some stories and stuff. And then one of them I rode with the next day to another place, and the other two we kind of frogged them for a little while, and we all had dinner at this really remote train station that the only thing there was the restaurant
Hmm.
and nothing else, and we had dinner there.
I'd imagine some of the favorite times through bikepacking around the world is when you've had just like day after day of just treacherous weather or situations, and then all of a sudden the conveniences of maybe modern life or feelings of home kind of you get a hut or a good warm meal or something like that comes into play, and you're like, yes. So
Yeah, absolutely. When the first sunny day after raining for a day, even for a couple hours, it could be sunny, and my whole mood changes. Or if I've gotten really low on electricity and I go to a campground or a hostel, and I can just plug in all my batteries, and I don't have to think about.
you've got an Instagram handle, don't you?
I do.
So would you like people to follow you
If they want to,
okay?
I'm not doing it for likes or anything. It's mostly just to share the stuff that I'm doing. It's Special Bicycle Service all together.
Okay, Special Bicycle Service.
Yeah. And I started it because my daughter was like, why don't you get on Instagram? And I was like, I don't want to. And she's like, well, you should. And I was like, okay.
So the social media game is always just a weird thing. I'm not sure that I ever want to do it. Although this is just for funsies.
Yeah.
So, hey, anything you want to tell us about your rig back here? Because I know this is one of your pride and joys because of some of the stuff that you've done to it. It's an old specialized stump jumper, but it's
Yep.
been greatly modified. So, well, maybe not greatly, but it's been modified to suit your needs. So, what have you done real quickly on this?
Yeah, this is my stump jumper that I got in like 2005 from that first bike shop in California when I was on the boat. And it is his best friends that in high school they had bought them together, and his was there's in the rafters, and my boss's was too big for me, but his best friends fit me just right. So yeah, a long time ago when I worked for a bike manufacturing company, I did a bunch of stuff to it, like modified the rear tubus rack, and um, that front rack started its life as a Nitto rack, and Nitto can't be, but uh, it's hardly recognizable now. And now it's got a basket on the top, which I really like, and made a bag for it. And then I stripped all the paint, reinforced all the braces on it, put some SS couplers in it, and I had it repainted and re-decaled. But it's been so long, it doesn't look like it.
And you put a coupler on there so you could break it apart.
Yeah, I put SNS couplers on there, but I find it just more convenient to put stuff in a bicycle box because I can dispose of them when I get to wherever I'm going.
Ah,
So I haven't even bothered. I have two bikes with SNS couplers, and
hadn't quite used them.
yeah, it's just so easy to just pack something in a bike box and recycle it when you get to wherever you're going. But yeah, I love this bike. It's a Cadillac. It's a total.
Yeah.
It's this one's heavy, but it's just so smooth and works so well. Um, I love it. I'll never get rid of it.
I think that's one of the things I love about this industry is like there's so many ways to configure a bike for how you're going to ride, and we see the racers of the world sometimes far too often and not take into account like there's people who actually maybe commute to work or commute because it's their lifestyle or bike pack or various different things and reasons, and it's really fun to see rigs like this and this like wow, that's way complicated in some ways because of all the things that you've had to think about of okay, I'm traveling this far, I need to have this with me, I need to be able to carry it in such a way that um, is balanced on the bike so you actually can kind of control things. So how long did it take you to figure out some of those configurations? Was it good trial and error for a few years, or was it like
Yeah, this bike started out with mustache bars. That was like my first iteration. Yeah, and that front rack, I chopped it up and rebrazed it 3 times before I came up with this final iteration. And yeah, yeah, but it's been like this for 10 years now, and I just put new wider handlebars on it like 3 years ago, and I think that's the only thing I've changed in 10 years. And yeah, it's such a workhorse. But that's the thing is like, I don't own a car, and you want to go somewhere and you don't ever not have something that you need. So it's got a generator, so I always have lights. It's got bag front and rear, so I got place for my locks, but then I also have place for wet weather gear, or if I stop at the grocery that expands so I can grab my groceries. I have mounts for the trailer on the back. I have fenders on it so I can ride in any weather. It's a 3x9 so I can climb any hills.
yeah?
And 26 inch, so there's a Schwalbe Marathon
Marathon.
plus touring pluses all the way. Yeah, it does everything and just doesn't really ever complain, and I can just go. The only issue is it's a little heavy, but it still just rides so smooth, and it feels fast to me, especially getting off the ECR with all the
Yeah.
bags on it.
So we're getting probably to the end because I don't know
Oh,
how
really?
long. Yeah, because
I thought we were doing the Joe Rogan 3 hours.
three. I've got a
Elon Musk.
He stops for pee breaks, and I don't
didn't
have a
notice that.
producer, and I don't know even if I've got the bandwidth. I don't even know what bandwidth is.
You have the bandwidth, I can tell.
Oh,
you're
thank you.
You're a big bandwidth type of dude.
I appreciate that. Well, I've got a special surprise for you. Yeah, yeah, because you and I we've known each other what 4 years? Is that about right? 3 to 4.
Yeah, at least.
So we've had lots of fun conversations while we're tinkering on the bicycles. And in fact, if you want to look at the monitor there,
Ah.
this was dressed like your favorite bike mechanic day. Um, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was just me making fun. But
I felt a little weird wearing the shorts that you wear in this photo, but it was worth it to look like you.
so yeah, this was dress up as Kasy Day at work, and it was a fun good time. But kind of going back to why I put that up is one of the things that probably got me to say, hey, maybe I can do an interview style podcast thing. Was we're just joking around and we should have a podcast because we always talked about chips.
Yeah.
And the joke
California Highway Patrol. We're big fans.
was it Poncho? Was that
Yeah.
is that the name of one? Poncho and
Yeah.
what was the other guy's name?
I don't
We'll call him Chris. That's such a bland name.
remember.
Man, but chips. I used to watch Chips. That was
Me too.
I always want to ride a motorcycle after that.
I think they did a reboot.
Did they?
Mhm.
The reboots are never good from shows of the '70s.
Is it Punch and John?
Ponch and John? Yeah, Ponch and John. I think that's right. Who knows? We can Google that crap later. But we always joked about like rating chips and eating chips and then
Yeah.
rating them because you're a huge chip aficionado. I'd imagine it provides a lot of sustenance to some degree while you're backpacking because it has salt and if it's kind of potatoey. It's got
And you
some
don't need to cook it.
and you don't need to cook it, and it's always kind of yummy. So we always got into like chips right here at the shop, and we'd eat all sorts of chips. And we joked about having a podcast called Chips and Shit, and where we eat chips and talk about shit. So I've kind of diverged from that, but
Yeah.
um,
Our audiences aren't going to mix. They're going to be confused.
yeah, but I do have chips, so let me grab some.
Okay. I'll keep the audience entertained. Wow.
So, in fashion of what we're going to do, from what we've already kind of discussed previously, years past, was open up a bag of chips and rate it. So, without further ado, I introduce you to the chips and shit portion of this podcast. So, one you want to start with, we got Utz Kettle. Smoking Sweet Barbecue. We've got Lay's Wavy Funyuns.
That's interesting.
Yeah, onion flavored potato chips. And then we've got the wow. We'll save this one to the end. This is the hot and spicy chicken wing,
That's limited edition too.
and it's also naturally flavored. It's
Spicy chicken.
naturally flavored. I wonder how they do that. So let's just start with the smoking sweet barbecue. First the bag open and then the smell, right? That's how you got to rate this.
Looks like easy opening bag. Didn't tear.
Yep, very easy to open.
Chips don't seem like they weigh any more than normal chips.
Smells like a potato chip.
I'm not smelling any barbecue sauce, though. It's nice and thick. Kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's got a little salt to it.
Mhm.
Good crunch. Big
Yeah.
fan of the crunch.
Yeah, it's almost like a kettle chip.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It is a kettle chip.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh.
kettle.
I wasn't briefed.
Yeah, this is actually happening live.
Mhm.
Well, not when you watch it, but it is happening live.
So we're dead.
A little sweet, more salty than sweet.
Yeah.
want another?
What's our scale?
I don't know what it's
One to
what's
five?
determine that
1 to 5 or
one to 5 or 1 to 10 or out of 7. I don't know. What do you want to do?
I guess we can go out of 10. That way we can be a little more minute in the ratings. I'd
Yeah.
give this for me a 7.
For you, 7. Wow. So what makes you go to 7 on a barbecue kettle?
just because I usually don't like non-wavy chips
Mm.
because I like wavy chips because they're usually thicker and crunchier.
Okay.
And that one was kind of like a wavy chip, but the flavors were good. Like you could sit there and snack on them.
Yeah.
I could eat a whole bag, relatively easy.
Do you,
And I want to say that Doritos sweet chili are the tens that I will gauge everything
Doritos
against.
sweet chili is the 10 in your book. I was about to ask you that. What's your okay? So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, we might have to do this over a Zoom call from time to time, and try to do a little podcast via the Zoom. Without further ado, we're gonna move on.
What was your?
Oh, thank you. I'm not a big barbecue fan. Easy to open back. So that right there is at least a 5. The harder ones, yeah. But a little salty in my book. Less barbecuey. I've found with that one. So I'm really going with a 6 on that one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. If it was a harder to open bag, it's probably a 4. But the bag
They
saved it.
just skirted underneath the bar on that one.
Yeah. All right, we got the Lay's Wavy Funyuns. This should be a favorite of yours because it's a wavy chip.
Yeah, and who doesn't love onion flavor? Okay, also easy to open.
Also
Excellent.
easy to open. Also, this is happening while we are in the store on a Saturday, so it won't always happen, but that's why you get maybe a ring in the background there.
I smell onion.
Yeah, you smell onion?
That's a good thing.
I'm used to the Funyuns, the round Funyun onion looking things.
I never buy those because they don't seem substantial enough.
They're also always seem to be like hard to eat, in my opinion.
And don't they tear up your mouth? Like
They tear up the roof of your mouth, yeah. So the easy bag smells good.
Definitely not too salty. It tastes like a regular, original style Lay's, dipped in cheap French onion sour cream dip that you get from Publix.
Yeah, it reminds me of Lay's a lot. A little bit
That's weird.
thicker. Definitely thicker. Not as much crunch.
No, I gotta cleanse my palate. Better have some coffee.
Yeah,
I give that a 7 as well.
So barbecue, Utz, Kettle 7, Lay's Wavy Funyuns 7.
Because you're right, the crunch wasn't quite as impressive on the Lay's as it was on the Oots.
But most Kettle chips are going to have a substantial.
I don't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm not going to believe you until I've done my own research.
Well, my friend, we can continue this over many a podcast over the next few years or months,
Okay.
if you want to. We can probably break this down. For me, I'm going 4 on that one.
Tell.
Not as I was expecting. More crunch and a little bit more robust Funyun-y flavor. Like I guess I'm so used to the Funyuns that I expected the Lay's Funyuns to be of that par and caliber. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy those again. I would just go straight up Funyuns and tear up the roof of my mouth.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I would buy those and the French onion dip and just go full bore. Just like obliterate all my senses.
That sounds like
a
a Super Bowl snack, big time.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, our final, and this is limited edition, by the way. So we went all out for you, Kasy, on this limited edition hot and spicy chicken wing natural flavored kettle chips.
So if we do like this, we'll have to go hoard these.
Yeah.
And since they're natural flavors, I think it's foul-mouthed chickens that they killed to flavor these.
Because the foul-mouthed chickens are spicy. Okay. I see where you're going with that.
Where's the canned laughter? Where's our audience?
Yeah, I need an laughter button. All right, let's see how easy it is to open.
Oh. I have to say that it didn't just break free, and when they're usually that hard, sometimes they just like all of a sudden just goes overboard. And
Yeah.
So.
But in all fairness, I did have a microphone in my hand, so
smell good spice. I think the flavor is a little bit more natural tasting than the Utz. But there's no sweetness to it. It's very savory.
Yeah,
Mm.
not very spicy.
Just wait. Kind of gets you in the end.
Oh yeah,
Well, not like hits you like a ton of bricks, but
I do have, I feel, a high tolerance to the spice.
being raised in India.
Texas mainly. So yeah, I mean, not a, for some people they're gonna be like, oh, that's really spicy. For me, that wasn't
Hmm.
bad at all.
Yeah, I give that a 6 because it was just like meh. It was,
Mm.
if somebody brought those to my potluck, I would take a few and I'd be like, oh, that's fine. But I wouldn't finish them. I wouldn't go grab that and finish.
So your favorite is it sounds like it's a tie between the kettle smoking barbecue and the waves Funyuns there.
Yeah, and either one of those, I would probably still get.
Yeah,
I would still get some either sour cream or some dip.
I I would probably defer to eating the hot and spicy.
Really?
Yeah, the limited edition there.
That's good news for the limited edition.
I'd probably rank that as 7.
I'm saying 6.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
but that's the beauty of our palates. It's
Yeah.
like there's. But I still haven't tried though the Doritos hot and spicy. Is that
Sweet chili. It's the purple bag.
sweet chili?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's best. Like they're great out of the bag, but if you really want to indulge in flavor heaven, get just a thing of regular sour cream and dip that stuff in there.
All right, Kasy, what's next for you?
Um,
Where do you go? What's
I-
your next travel plans?
Next travel plans are up in the air. I gotta replace about a bunch of worn out parts on the bike. I have some bag ideas, nothing major, just tweaking a bunch of stuff that I think I could make it more efficient and a little bit, easier to use. But I'm just gonna go back and try to get some more money in the kitty and figure it out. Like either I still want to go to India and I still want to go to Australia and Asia, South America. I don't know which one I want to start at.
Wow.
But I
So,
just got back, so I don't have
has-
to decide.
is there any advice that you'd give for somebody who wants to be a bicycle vagabond?
Um, just go.
Just go.
Yeah, don't overthink it. Like I like bikes and I like gear. And I like camping. So the way I do it is definitely very different from a lot of people. And there's no right answer.
Okay, that's great. So, I guess for people who want to travel the world on bicycle, just do it. Don't be afraid. Like you're gonna
Or
learn
be
as you
afraid.
go.
Be very
Be
afraid.
very afraid. Okay, have some fear. Well, good. I think that's some of the best advice. Is like the best way to do something is just start. The best way to learn how to run a mile is walk a mile.
Yeah, like I started out with full Ortlieb pannier set on this bike with mustache handlebars, and I'm very far away from that. But I had a really good time the whole time I was running that, but I figured stuff out, tweaked stuff, and that's how you do it.
Well, I want to thank you for being part of the very first little recording of the podcast. I have no idea if it even recorded the right way. So we could be speed talking through microphones.
We should have had a second phone like video in this just in case.
Oh, that would have been really smart.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
it's all good.
But that's probably when you're doing bike packing tours, you got to think of alternate plans and backup. I'm not there yet, Kasy.
We should get a drone, or you should get a drone,
And just have it record hovering
Yeah.
over everything.
and then you can do your little flip floppy thing with the top.
I don't think I'm even that capable of all the high tech stuff. I barely know how to click a mouse. So
Yeah, but you got those kids. and working here.
Uh,
You could have it when the conversation gets boring. It starts to wander off and go see if there's anything else exciting happening
the
in the
the
shop.
real joke on this is we're we're just AI, um, computer generated bots basically.
This is a very good AI.
It is. I can leave the link below of what I used to recreate my likeness.
Mine is trademarked, so
Oh, wow. Okay.
anybody else will have to pay me a royalty.
Gotcha. Any final thoughts or words as we close out?
No, this has been real fun. I'll be in Atlanta, Tampa, and Schenectady this next 2 weeks
Gotcha.
for my comedy specials.
Okay. Well, where? That's great. It's really funny. I will be here at Sunset Bicycles, trying to repair bikes, and
What are your hours?
we are now Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 6:30, and 10 to 4 on Saturday.
Sweet,
Closed Sunday, Monday. Why? Because we need a break
dude, to eat the chips.
and to eat the
All the
chips.
research that goes into the podcast.
Yeah,
That takes at least 2 days a week.
I probably will never do that.
Okay.
So, Kasy, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm glad you came.
Yeah, me too.
It's good to
Thanks.
see you, and I appreciate all the fun things that we've had. So, I look forward to following you along on your crazy adventures on the Instagram and send you messages of encouragement.
Sweet.
So, that's it. That's all we got. I don't.
Peace.
It's weird talking to a camera. Maybe I'll get used to it one of these days. But other than that, we are out. I would hit some kind of crazy intro, outro button to send us out, and like that. And there's the Sunset Bicycles logo, and we are no longer on camera. And then we can